I'm so glad. This was kind of a spontaneous act. It all began with Angela. Angela saying, I really feel like we need to do a prophetic act. And, you know, we've just been kind of mulling that over and then even waiting for the right timing. And then I realized, hey, October 11th on Wednesday is my birthday. I want to ask for it on my birthday. I'm going to be selfish and ask for us to do this on my birthday. And so it's one of the best birthday presents I could hope for, is that we're actually out here doing what we want to do tonight. And you may not know what a prophetic act is, but it's really just, I want to give you a couple stories maybe as we kind of think about our time together, but these are the things that I think about. It's when the Israelites were about to cross the Jordan in Joshua, in the book of Joshua. God told them to get the priest, to get the Ark of the Covenant, and then they actually had to put their foot in the water first. They had to actually step into the water by faith. And then it was at that point then God began to move, but it was their act of faith that God moved upon. So sometimes I know you guys we might do this with God, like, God, if you'll just do this, then I'll do that. If you'll do this in my life, then I'll do that. When God is saying, no, I want you to take a step of faith, and then I'll join you. You know, so really by this prophetic act, we're just going to break ground with a shovel. And we're asking everybody to get a shovel, and I don't care if it's a little bit of dirt or it doesn't matter, that by faith we're just taking an act before God, just like the Israelites put their feet in the Jordan. And then we're asking God to move upon what the next phase is, or what the next season is for Abbey Hill. And so if you know the story, when they stepped into the water, God stopped the water. By the way, the Jordan was at flood stage. It was at the time of year of flooding would happen. So the Jordan could have been up to very, very wide. You know, I don't know exactly how wide, but it wasn't necessarily, you know, it'd be like a stream that's maybe not bad at one time of the year, but the next at a rainy season it could be flooded. You could just not go through there. Well, this happened to be at the rainy season, and when they step into the water, God then stops the water upstream at the city of Adam, or Adam, and therefore they are able to cross this area because God once again stops the water, just like he did with the Egyptians and the Israelites coming out of Egypt when he stopped the Nile, when he parted the waters for them to cross there. He's doing it again in the book of Joshua, where he stops the waters upstream. And we had a friend who preached a sermon called 19 Miles Upstream, because that was about 19 miles upstream from where God stopped the water, and then they were able to enter in to the promised land. They were able to cross the Jordan and enter into the new territory. And so we're very much in the same kind of place where if God doesn't act, it's not, our power is not strong enough. We cannot sustain the vision. We can't sustain what he's asking us to do unless it's God's power helping us accomplish that. So that's one story that comes to mind, that I feel like that's what we're doing tonight. We're putting our foot in the water. We're taking a chunk of dirt out of the ground. The other thought I have is the feeding of the 5,000 and the little boy with his lunch. You know, I feel very much like the little boy with his lunch, to say, God, I don't have, but what I do have, I'm going to give it to you. And I'm going to give you my lunch, because this is all I got. But I know that you are all powerful, and you can multiply what it is that I have in my hands, or what we have in our hands. He's able to multiply if we would just simply offer what we have and then let him do the rest. So that's for me, this is a faith act as well tonight, just to say I'm going to offer what I have and then let you do the rest from there, God. And so before we go into the night, though, I would like to honor some certain people that are here. Some are not here tonight. And I don't want to be long-winded, but I just want to be able to say thank you and express gratitude for the people that have meant so much to me. And one of them is Weldon Adcock, who I love dearly, but he died 2 years ago on this day. And he was a man I could go and sit with and talk to. And one of the things that I loved about Weldon, it did not matter how difficult things were for him. He was a man. This is what I learned from Weldon, and this is what I am trying to take into my own life. That he could be going through some difficult stuff, but every time I sat with Weldon, he always had gratitude for his life, for God, his goodness, his kindness. Instead of seeing the glass was half empty, he always saw the glass was half full. He would always say, well, I got this to be grateful for, or I got that to be grateful for, in the middle of sometimes some trying times. And I don't know about you, but gratitude is infectious. Where we stop and we just say thank you. We just say thank you to those around us. We say thank you to God for what he's done. And I feel like I personally want to say thank you to Weldon. I feel like today is in honor of him as well, that he's looking at us in the great cloud of witnesses, cheering us on. But he believed in this vision of Abbey Hill, and he saw it. I remember speaking it the first time, and he saw it. He didn't need to hear any more. He even saw beyond what I saw sometimes. And so he would help support it, and he was one of the members who laid a foundation for us to even be standing here today. He's not the only one. There are a few other people that have passed on, so I just want to recognize the people that aren't with us that were part of the foundation. And that is Ron Huseman, was another man who was faithful. And I want to just tell a story about Ron. We were actually looking at the nursing home on Park Avenue. And that nursing home on Park Avenue was called Abbey Hill Nursing Home. And so I was interested in trying to find who owned that building. A guy in Florida owned that building, and we could renovate that building to begin to help at-risk kids, at-risk families, whatever. And Ron, in one of our evening studies, says, why do we need to buy that building? Why don't we buy land? And then we can build what we want to build. And I'm like, it's one of those comments you just kind of take, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just kind of put that in my pocket. Well, it wasn't long after that, then I had a dream of property and so what Ron spoke actually came to pass, that we ended up having God revealed to us this property. We found this property later. This is just a side note, but while we were looking at that building, I actually wrote out a plan of how to renovate that building and what would be in that building. And I made notes about that building. Years later, we buy this property, and how God works, and somebody dumps junk at the front gate up here. And I was so mad that somebody would just come and just dump their trash. I mean, and it was a load of trash at the front gate. There's still some remnants of the pile. I burned most of it, but I'm like, I'm gonna find who dumped the trash on this gate. And I started going through it, and there were names, there were addresses, there were people. I'm like, and I'm getting on Facebook, I'm finding out addresses. I think I even find the address and I went, and there was a trailer and a truck in their yard. I mean, I did all this. But then I pull out of the trash a notebook, and I pull out the notebook, and I'm flipping through this notebook, and I turn to a page, and at the top of the page it says Abbey Hill. And there's a plan similar to the plan I wrote for that building in town at the gate of the property we ended up obtaining. And I don't know about you, but what are the chances? What are the odds that whoever dumped trash at our gate would have in their notebook an Abbey Hill, top of the page, and plans of how to... I know it was somebody else who saw that same building and was having similar ideas of what that building could... But it was just God connecting dots, saying, I got you exactly where I want you for the purpose in which I'm going to do what I want to do. And it was just a sign from God that he was with us. But so Ron Huseman was one of those people that spoke into this dream. And I don't even know that he knew that as much, but it came to pass. We ended up not getting that building, and here we are sitting on 145 acres today. So I want to honor also the Rohrbach family. Elaine Rohrbach has passed away, but Jerry continues to support the Abbey Hill work, although he's not with us, and he's with us some. He's with his daughter in another state right now, but has continued to be a foundational support and member as well. So I just want to take time to honor them. A few other families I want to honor is in 2011, I experienced the baptism of the Holy Spirit that changed my life and then led a whole trajectory of my life, our life, my wife and I, our kids, our family. The trajectory of our life just got shifted. And then we were uninvited from the church in 2015. But the other family that I want to honor is my Aunt Brenda and Uncle Jim, because they were with me at that conference when God poured himself out on me. And they have not stopped backing me from the day that happened. Uncle Jim and Aunt Brenda have been in my corner, writing a check every month to support the risk, to support the sacrifice, to support whatever it is, whatever the Lord was going to do. They were backing what the work of the Spirit had done in my life. And when all these other things had turned south or fallen apart, they were there just walking and walking and walking. We would not be standing on this property if it weren't for Uncle Jim Bell and Brenda Bell for the support that they have given. One other family I could just keep going, but I'm going to recognize, I'm so glad Nick Finzer's here tonight, because I want to recognize Nick and Diane Finzer as well. It goes back with them, that all the way back to Michelle's parents, that Marilyn and Max were a part of Nick and Diane's life. I don't even know in what years, in the 70s.
She was a little girl.
She was a little girl. Michelle was a little girl. Well, they made a connection, and Marilyn had twins, and then here we know Diane's getting ready to have twins, and Diane's about ready to pull her hair out because she got two boys and then twin girls on top of it. And Marilyn just happened to be a part of their life, and I know that Marilyn and Diane, they would connect, and Marilyn would support Diane. Well, years later, who would have known that we were going to move? I'm talking decades later, we moved to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and Nick and Diane Finzer live in Hot Springs, Arkansas, where God's calling us. And they have supported Abbey Hill. They supported the Grove Church when we started the church, but then when everything turned with the Grove, they've supported Abbey Hill, and we wouldn't be standing here again if it weren't for the support of the Finzer family. But one of the stories I want to tell is, I haven't talked to Nick about this, so I'm putting myself out there, but we went through a bankruptcy. We went through a bankruptcy when we moved from Missouri to Indiana. We moved from California to Missouri to Indiana. We owned 3 houses at one time. Could not get rid of them because the market crashed in 2006. We lost all of our retirement. We lost everything. We did not lose our marriage, and we did not lose our family. That was the thing we held on to in the midst of everything. And then out of those ashes is what God called, when he called us to Hot Springs, Arkansas, he was calling us up out of the ashes that we were living in. So we could not buy a home. And I've got 5 kids, and a house that we needed for our 5 kids was just not going to cut it. So we got one house. I think it was it $1,500 a month in rent in 2011 for 5 kids, and and that was like a little steep. So we're like, we did that for a while, and then we said, nope, we're going to give this up. We're going to move to another house. We ended up moving to like a 1,300 square foot house with 5 kids.
Oh my.
And we were in a tight space. And Nick came to the church one day, and he says, hey, I got something I want to ask you about. And he basically asked me if I'd be interested in a house. And he drove me by and showed me a house on Suburban Drive. And it's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, 3,000 square foot home. I mean, you tell me, would you be interested? The house was dated. It had orange carpet, green carpet, blue carpet, paneling. In the 70s, it was built in the 70s, but it was a great house. Like, the structure of it was so good. And I was like, Nick, I'm totally interested. Well, Nick and Diane ended up buying that house, and then we were able to buy that house from them. But they let us rent that house. They made a way for us to move into a home, live in a home, because if you go through a bankruptcy, you can't buy a house for 7 years. Like, you're sunk. And our credit was sunk. We could do nothing. We were trapped. But because of the faithfulness of Nick and Diane and their provision, we were able to move into that home and just watch the equity of that home increase. I think the asking price in that home was in a range of 130 or 140,000 in 2011. Well, you know it's worth way more than that now.
It was an auction.
And it was an auction. And you bought it at the auction. And Becky, I think, was interested, then not interested, and then God just worked. All I'm saying is God worked in it all. And so we were able to move into that house, and now that's my lunch that I'm offering to God. I'm saying, this is my lunch, God. I'm ready to give you the lunch. And then I'm asking you to do what you want to do. So it's just amazing to watch God in our lives through the people around you, because that's what the kingdom of God is like. I mean, I don't know that Nick and Diane or Jim and Brenda Bell or Weldon Adcock or anyone was just trying to just go out of the way. I think they were all just being faithful to God in their life. And I'm the recipient. I know my family is a recipient of their kindness. And they're not the only ones. This circle right here has foundational members that have been faithful and have laid the groundwork for what God's getting ready to do on this property. I don't think it's something small he's getting ready to do. And I don't mean that in numbers or size. I just mean that in significance in the kingdom. I think he wants to do something significant here. I'm not even sure I know what it is or how it's going to all come to pass. But I have a sense in my spirit he has more to do with restoration and wholeness and what he wants to do for people on this property than we even know. So, you guys know Brett. God's brought Brett and Angela into our life. He's brought Adam and Brittany. He's brought all of you into our life. Logan and Haley, you were back at the Grove, and yet we're still walking together, right? And it's so amazing. I wouldn't know Daryl if it weren't for Weldon, because we met at the Bonsai Club. And so God has just connected the dots with so many of us. Right now what's going on, Brett happened to be between jobs in his construction world, and there's a little window of time he's able to help me on the house, but we're renovating our house, and Brett painted the whole upstairs today, all the ceilings. We've gutted the bedrooms. We're putting in new flooring in the bedrooms, and by November 1st, we're putting our house on the market. So that's only like 2 weeks from now. But that's our offering to God, to say, God, we can't move forward and with that. You know, we've got to make some moves. So right down this road, around the corner is where Michelle and I have pictured we're going to put an RV, and we're going to pioneer out here, and we're going to start building. And where I want to build, if you guys could kind of begin to get a picture, this is a valley here, like a bowl. There's a ridge. You drove in on this ridge right here. This is another ridge with a valley. There's another ridge over there, and that's kind of how this property lays. It's like these valleys with ridges. And right down the middle of this valley, there's actually a road that the timber companies used to use to come in. There's a road right down here below. I've cleared that road as far as taking the chainsaw down through there. You could actually drive a car down that road when it's going to be all clear. But right through that valley, I met with the electric company, and that's where they're recommending us bring electric right through that valley, right up this hill, and right up here to the buses, and then we can go on down to the lower fields. But this is our start. So to get to get electricity here to up to the bus area is going to be anywhere from $13,000 to $20,000. We don't know. It's about $1,500 a pole. But if we do some underground and above ground, that's kind of what we're looking at, okay? So none of you have seen any of the blueprints, but I have drawn blueprints for our tiny homes, different sizes. And so this ridge, if you can begin to imagine, Michelle and I want to be able to park an RV over there and get settled. Right here, right here is where I want us to build our first tiny home. And if you can imagine, the roof structure is just a flat roof like this, but it's going to be pointed up, but open towards that valley. So glass would be on the other side of, like, glass walls or glass windows overlooking that valley. With this tiny home, it would be 2 bedrooms and a living space in the middle. And the reason I'm positioning this one here is this could also be, like, this is my thinking, this could also be a future office. It may not end up being a tiny home in the long run. It might actually be an office that connects to both ridges where tiny homes are built on these ridges. Where we're helping people that are restored, this is the office they would eventually come to. But, and then down this ridge, we would begin to cut into this ridge. So when you drove in, you saw the road, it's kind of a flat on the top, but right there on the hillside, we would begin to build, cluster our building together, because you think of utilities, water and electric, it needs to be, if we build over there and then build over there, you can't really do that with electricity. You know, you got to have a continual feed and you got to build in progression. So this is why I chose this spot, is to break ground right here. That would be our first. It's about a 600 to 700 square foot tiny home right there, and then we would begin to build this way. We could also, again, up here on this site, we see building more of the shared building, like where there could be a dining hall or a gathering room or a gathering space up here on this hillside. And the same thing where the glass would look down over that valley, open glass looking over that valley, and the parking could be out in the middle. But you can see we're beginning to cluster we can cluster things together closely. So we've got to have a well here, electric coming in. So a well's going to either go like over in here, a well could go over in here, but somehow water's then got to connect where we'll put a tank. We'll put some holding tanks up on the hill where gravity feed water comes down, so we can pump water to you can't just have 40 people take showers all at once. You got to have gallons of water to draw from, like 3,000 to 5,000 gallons of water, that then it's not all the demand on the pump at one time. The pump would fill the tank and then the tank would be dispersed. But I don't know if that makes any sense to all of you, but that's why we're out here. And we're getting ready to take steps of faith. And we realize this is not a Brant and Michelle thing. This is a kingdom thing, and this is a team thing. And one of the things I think about is when the Israelites stepped into the Jordan, it wasn't just Joshua stepping into the Jordan. It wasn't Moses who had passed away. I mean, I think of like a similar weld in his back. Joshua then carried, but it was the people of Israel. It was God's people who was stepping into that water. So I feel like we are stepping into the water together. It's not just, I'm telling our version of the story, but you have your version of the story. And it's just, this is an act that I want us to take and just pray before God as an offering, to say, God, we're offering this and we're asking you to take it to the next level. So does anybody else, Michelle, do you want to make any comments? Yeah, you should.
I'm good. It'll just make me cry.
Anybody else want to add? I've piped in now. Somebody else might want to.
I would just say that, we had this dream, and Amanda said she knew where this property was.
She knew where the property was?
Yeah. We won't say why, but anyway. Everybody that came out here on that day and looked at it said, "This is it.
Yeah.
This is what on.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Amen. One of the things I listen to is my wife, which I don't listen to her often, but I did this day. I'm learning to listen to her more.
He's a slow learner.
No, but she felt peace, and she's a city girl. She's not really the out in the country kind of girl, but she felt the peace of God when we came out here, and the fact that she's willing to live in a camper trailer and RV it and pioneer, that's God. So I'm excited you're willing to take the journey and do that.
I do want to say something, which I don't have dreams very often, but I did have a dream this week, and we were having service out at Cutter, where we're having it, but we were having it in the cafeteria, but it really didn't look like the cafeteria. It looked like a small church, and people started coming, and it was like kind of some people that we've been having come. And then some more people started coming, and I was like, well, we're going to have a pretty packed, house today. There's some more people coming, and then more people started coming, and then more people started coming. And then I was like, why in the world did we have this in the cafeteria area? We should have had it in the multi-purpose building, because it was so many people coming. And I just feel like that was from the Lord, just like, and it doesn't even have to be people, but just that God is, He's going to expand this for the kingdom. It's not about numbers, or it's not about, how many people we have in the house, but everything we're doing with Abbey Hill, it's for the kingdom. And we have, two people, Brant and Michelle, that have just really laid down their life for this work, are willing to surrender to God in everything that they're doing. And those are the kind of vessels that God is looking for. He's not looking for somebody that is, has everything together, is super talented, although they are. He's looking for someone that is just willing to say yes to Him, and to go and to do. And that was something my grandma always used to say. Like she told her, one time that, like, God has all kinds of vessels, but He doesn't need anything fancy. He just needs just like a little terracotta pot that she said that's what God showed her. Like, that's what you are, like, but I'm filling you with my glory, and I'm going to show myself real through you. And I think what God is doing here with His Spirit and two people that have surrendered their lives, He's saying, you're willing to say yes. You're willing to lay it down. And for all of you that are just willing to say yes and lay it down along with them, I just believe God doesn't need a lot. And it's just exactly what Brant said, just a little bit. He just needs, I don't have much to offer, but I just have a yes, God. I just want to be a part of what you're doing on this earth. And I believe God is going to multiply this work like we can't imagine. I think the things that He's going to pour into it, pour out through us, like, I think when we look back, we're going to say, that was only God. Only God could have done what happened through Abbey Hill. That was not us. We didn't have it. We didn't have it, anything to pour into it. We don't have much to give to it. We don't have resources. We don't have, but God has everything. And all He's looking for is just for us to say yes. And so I'm just thankful to be a part of what y'all are doing. When I came into a Bible study that night, I knew instantly that it's where we were supposed to be, because of the hearts of Brant and Michelle, their hearts towards the Lord. And I just haven't found many people like that. It's just few and far between. You find a lot of church people, but you just don't find a lot of people that really have hearts for the Lord. And so I'm just thankful to be a part of this work and just be a part of what God's doing, because I think He's about to really multiply and expand. And I'm glad that everybody here, I'm just so glad to be here with normal people that love the Lord and just want to serve Him. It's just a great feeling. So
There are some people in this group not normal.
Normal.
Thank you,
Prophesying
Adam.
over us, normalness.
Anybody else want to add in before we go over and break ground? I do want to say thank you to my daughters. They're here as well. Because they were the ones that were faithful at the Grove in the children's ministry. You know, they were serving kids. They were doing adult level leadership as young children because adults wouldn't step up and do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And they got burnt out of that, but God's shaped them, and He's moving on them. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful for my wife as well, who's been willing to take the ride and go through the crazy. So, all right, I want to offer Isaiah 58 is another passage that God spoke to us, that He said in Isaiah 58 that we would be known as restorers of the breach, that we would be the builders of streets to dwell in. Like there's a place where we're going to build back what's been lost or what's being lost in people's lives, that this place has been declared as a place of restoration for people. And so anyone that's needing restoration and we feel like we're the right people to help, we're going to do our best to help people go through a restoration in their life and a recovery. We don't even know what that totally looks like. We haven't even said, oh, it's just kids, or oh, it's women, or oh, it's men. We've not put any parameters on that because we believe God is going to show us every step of the way how to do it and to whom we're doing it for, instead of us just determining that. So, but we know it's for people that really want a change. It's not for people that don't want to change but pretend like they want to change. We're not going to play that game. Like, we really are going to ask people to go through the journey with us. So I want to say thank you for all of you that have been faithful. I didn't mention everybody in this circle, but each one of you, we wouldn't be here without you. So, all right, let me pray. Well, let's go ahead and grab shovels. I don't know if we have a camera to take pictures, but we have 7 shovels, so we don't all have to go one at a time. We can go in groups of 7. We're going to walk right over there, and we're going to dig a hole in the ground. And Angela, do you want to add anything to this? Because you're the brainchild here.
No, we were just coming together praying, and I just know that I know that, 6 months ago, the one thing I learned, from Potter's Clay and being under, his grandmother's leadership was the voice of the Lord.
Yeah.
I know the voice of the Lord, and I know He said 6 months from now, the cabins were going to be built. So, it's been 6 months.
Yeah, It's time.
It's time.
We paused there for a while but we feel like it's time. We paused maybe even a little long, but I think I was waiting just for some resolve on stuff, so now so let's do this. Let's go ahead and grab shovels.